Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Evolution of Construction Technology, presented by an esteemed panel of industry experts. I am Josef Burkart at ABC National, and I will be today's moderator. Today's presentation is being recorded and will last approximately 60 minutes. This presentation will be available on ABC's website within 24 hours, and attendees will receive an email with a link to the presentation and webinar recording. Please note, all participant lines are muted. You are welcome to submit questions throughout the webinar by using the question box at the bottom of the sidebar. We will get to as many questions as possible during the Q&A portion of the presentation. You may also minimize and expand GoToWebinar sidebar by clicking on the red arrows on the top left corner. And now I would like to kick off today's webinar by having our panelists introduce themselves. First, Marcio.
Hi there, my name is Mauricio Parada. I'm the controller for Hoffman Associates. Hoffman Associates is a owner developer in the DC area, and now we recently have expanded into the Southeast. We've been with the company for 4 years, and we've been using Sage products since inception about 25 years ago. Thank you.
Anthony.
Hello, my name is Anthony Ruano. I'm a senior accountant at Hoffman and help support the implementation of Intacct.
Dennis.
Great, thank you. My name is Dennis Stejskal. I'm a director with Sage Construction Real Estate, and I've been in the technology space pretty much my whole career. Have worked on the development of 3 or 4 different cost management systems, and over the last 18 months, we've been working on our latest generation of it, which I'll share some of that with you today. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to kind of proceed with just the background a little bit on, the construction technology, where it's been, and then also talk a little bit about where I truly see it going. And it has been an interesting journey. I started, like I said, a long time ago in 1979, and here we are 43 years later, and we'll kind of visit some of that history. For the most part, this was a study by McKinsey. It's about 3 years old, but it hasn't changed drastically. We are seeing an uptake, and what this is basically about, it is the industry digitization index, and it's a fancy way of saying how heavily is the particular industry encompassing technology. And for the most part, you can see by the graphic here, way over on the right, which is the least amount of digitization. It's a hard word to say. The least amount. Construction is sitting right in front of agriculture, and we see a similar type thing in productivity in the industry. That's a lot of times productivity in the industry maps the same way. And what that typically leads to is, if your productivity isn't there, what that typically leads to, next slide please, is waste. And these are some numbers out of that same article, and it really just talks about the first one over the left is, we're still not seeing huge productivity gains. Now, over the last 2 years, we're actually seeing some bigger increases there. So there are some uses of technology and adoption of technology that we're seeing is increasing some of that numbers. But when you start looking over at the middle number, $500 billion of waste or rework, and if you're a contractor, we've all seen it: bad drawings, old drawings, not having timely data, all sorts of things can cause rework, and it's not a small number. So that's a huge number that if we can improve just a little bit, there's massive opportunities for savings. And we all know the construction market is big, so if we kind of expand that out to even a larger footprint, the opportunity for savings is great. And we continue to watch all parts of the world on we see some things happening in Europe about adoption of technology. They actually lead the US in the construction sector a little bit. So lots of opportunities for growth, I think, is the biggest takeaway. And go to the next slide, please. And it's happening. It is happening. And if you think through, prior to 1999, we have been in an analog world. We moved a lot of things by paper. We moved a lot of things by fax machine. Extremely inefficient. But with the invent of the internet, as well as the mobilization, things started changing, and we've kind of reached into a newer, what I consider, plateau within construction. And over, if you think closely about the last 20 years, a lot of new products on board, a lot of them taking advantage of the internet, a lot of them taking advantage of better access to data. So a variety of things have been changing there. Now, as we look to the future, we're just making the job sites smarter, and they're continuing to be smarter. Now, as I look at Sage and what we do, we of course look at it from a financial perspective, and the more data points we get that are more accurate, they can do a better job of helping us predict, in essence, what is going on. So as I look at that, we also see, I like this slide, the evolution of the construction financial manager. So if you think about, where a CFO of a company has been and where they are now, you're going to see something like this. I always call it the historian. And accounting, many for a long time in finance, has been known to keep track of what has happened. We've been called bean counters. Go to the next slide. Sorry about that. Yeah, we've been one more advance. We've been called bean counters, and really that's the historian in the role of a CFM within construction in the past. And part of the reason, though, was data. We just didn't have access quite to the data that we were needing. Go next, please. But fast forward a little bit, where we're gathering more data. The tools to analyze the data are being able to are improving. The tools to dig deeper into the data to see why did something happen is what has evolved over the last 10, 15 years. Is the CFO or the construction financial manager role has now moved into more of an analyst. So they're now able to study the data, look at the data, and better say, well, here's why it happened. But as we look to the future, and this is where we're at now, next slide, is that we're truly moving into the role of the CFM, the role of the project manager, Mauricio's role, Anthony's role of saying, where are we going and how are we going to predict what's going to happen in the future? So we're getting more into artificial intelligence, looking at numbers and making predictions. And you still have to look at the number. You learn to trust the numbers, and the more data points you get in certain areas, it really allows for this level of predictability to improve. But it all does come down to tracking the numbers and making sure we know what's there. And as I look at the evolution, a real quick history lesson here is, next slide, and we're going to go through these a little bit quick here. This is something back from the 80s and even the early 90s. We had not even Windows-based technology, screens like this that many years ago, if I could see the cost codes, the total amount and the total units that we've actually spent, and that's that historian, how much have we spent? That was fabulous. Next, please. And we had the accountants jumping up and down. And then what happened? The operations side, go next. They got a little bit jealous, and so we started seeing software come out really targeted at the operations side. So companies like Primavera with scheduling and Primavera with expedition, some of you might recall that, started making data that was available to the operations side of the organizations. But then what happened is The problem, go next please, is they kind of got upset because accounting was having to rekey data and they weren't sharing the data. So we evolved next into this time, next please, where things were tried to be built to link these systems, and we started doing rudimentary links to them. But unfortunately, they were rudimentary. And go next. And what was happening is that these links started breaking, and the data became unreliable, and all of a sudden it just wasn't as solid. So next, please. So as we kind of fast forward a little bit, companies, big companies like Sage, Timberline, CMIC, Viewpoint, Dexter and Cheney, they said, okay, we know how we're going to solve this. We're going to build both operational and financial software. So most of these companies came out of the financial world next, and they went and they built out project management stuff. And what happened though is it worked. And if you click next, then the data came together, the systems were integrated. But how often do you build a job within just your company walls? You don't do it. You have people outside your industry or outside your company that you need to collaborate with. And really, that's what then started kind of the next evolution of things occurring. Next, please. And part of this, go ahead, one more, is all really tied to the cloud and connectivity. So the internet came on board, and the internet's been around for a long time, but we really started consuming it. The whole concept of agile programming started happening. Hit next. And all of a sudden we started seeing all sorts of new type of companies coming into the marketplace with all great new types of products, great new, a lot more data. And as a result of all that, next, things started happening. And this is really over the last 8 years, I would say a lot of this has been occurring. Next is number one, billions in tech investment. And I'm not talking, 1 billion, I'm talking $2 to $4 billion in tech investment, specifically in the construction market. Next, please. That is leading to quite innovative point solutions. And those innovative point solutions are showing up in all those areas that I showed on that previous slide. Next, please. And with that said, we're also seeing what I call persona-based solutions. We've seen the Procores of the world come out. We've seen Constructware come out. There's a variety of systems, but they've also started getting even tighter. We're seeing superintendent-based tools come out, not just full project management, but targeted just at the superintendent. So we're seeing a lot more, again, very pointed, innovative solutions. Next. Part of this is because the industry is finally saying, hey, we've got to improve our interoperability. And that's not easy to say. It's not easy to connect a piece of software to another piece of software built by someone else. But we're improving our methods, but probably the biggest thing there is, again, the internet. It allows us to truly connect it without having to go into a back office server system somewhere, in your office somewhere. So the cloud helps that. But next slide. We still have some data silos, and this is an area that I think we have some room from a technology perspective to grow. We're integrating it, but we're integrating selected data. We need to integrate even more data. And again, kind of like I said, is cloud solutions are leading the way for all this. So with all that, one more slide, and we'll turn it over to Josef. I think you're going to see that one company can't do it all. With the level of innovation that's happening out there, there's great systems coming into play, and so you really got to ask yourself, I need the power of choice. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Josef. You're muted, Joseph.
Thank you, Dennis. And with that conversation of having the power of choice, that leads us into ABC's Tech Alliance. The Tech Alliance is, hand-selected 15 tech companies that we believe can provide educational opportunities to ABC members. They work with us through our webinar series. They work with us through chapter local events. They work with us with developing white papers and also helping us with our tech report, which I will be presenting on. But you have the choice of the educational system, but you also have to have a marketplace to purchase these products. That's where the tech marketplace comes in. These are 21 companies. They have all been vetted by our innovation committee. And these companies provide exclusive discounts to ABC members, and they're here to help you implement and adopt technology. For the tech report, the purpose of it was to identify what construction technologies ABC members are using and what have they done successfully, what challenges are they still facing, and give them a tool that they can look at, small and mid-sized companies can look at and say, larger companies are doing this, or my peers are doing this, I want to investigate more. For the tech report, there's a couple quick highlights we can touch on. First of all, 70% of members listed operational issues as one of their top 3 challenges. Nearly all members rely on some sort of specialized accounting and billing software. Primarily it's QuickBooks, but it is closely followed by Sage. After that, Procore is the #1 used safety platform, but that may change. And kind of the primary issue that we wanted to bring this up is that over half of respondents are using non-purpose-built software for office management, such as Microsoft Office, whereas 100% of their field staff are using a purpose-built software like Procore. We have to advocate for the adoption of purpose-built software in the construction industry, and that's what this report highlighted, and that's what the Tech Alliance and the Tech Marketplace are meant to address. Furthermore, of our Excellent in Construction award winners, out of a total of 267 nominations, 93% of them are using a project management technology. Furthermore, 80% of those projects have a contract value of $47 million or less. And more than 50% are using drones, material management, safety, and/or project management technology. The ABC members who are doing excellent projects and are getting awarded for it are overwhelmingly using purpose-built construction software. Again, this represents it. So to translate it, 8 billion of our best work around the country has 90% of our contractors using technology. And again, it's mostly small to mid-sized contractors. Implementing technology. We have plenty of adoption of technology. However, we're not having adoption of technology at the entire company level. So the CEO or the technologist, adopts the technology, but the implementation of it isn't successful. That's what our FMI research has shown that was highlighted in our tech report. 51% of our respondents indicated that the biggest challenge that they're facing is poor tech adoption. There are a few ways to overcome this hurdle. One is to get buy-in from everybody, especially the end user. Assigning somebody as a technology champion who is responsible for successfully implementing the technology, not only in meetings, not only in purchasing the technology, but also being the point for everybody in the organization to connect with if they have any sort of questions regarding the technology. Third, strategize your rollout to meet your end users where they are. Note, some might be digital natives who can pick up technology easily with minimal training. I'm a millennial. I can use pretty much any technology you put in front of me. My son, who's 3, can use an iPad, and it's amazing. But my father, who's in his 60s, can barely use his iPad. You have to adopt your rollout to meet each one of those users. And celebrate small wins. It takes a long time to implement, and it can be difficult, but every time you reach one of your milestones, that should be a celebration. Other challenges, operational challenges. Members found that their biggest challenges tend to be coordinating of projects, estimating, planning, and production, and scheduling. Also, reporting and tracking, just keeping track of your documentation, your time entry, your inventory, your accounting. You know, it was all done on paper. It can be done digitally now, and it can save much more time, and it can save a lot more of your resources to do it digitally. And then non-purpose built technology. Again, to go into more detail, Office project management technology is overwhelmingly Microsoft Office. In the field, it's almost 100% Procore. It needs to flip. You need to have Microsoft Office doesn't integrate with Procore as well as Procore integrates with Procore. So using Procore in the office is a great step forward, or using any other project management solution in the office. And then as far as operations and management, it's overwhelmingly Microsoft Excel. And there are plenty of other solutions out there that we hope to highlight in the future. And then safety technology. Almost half of respondents have a set budget for their safety technology between $1,000 and $10,000. We have two safety technologies on our Tech Alliance, KPA and SafeSite. If you didn't know, if you're an ABC member and you want to adopt a safety technology for free, SafeSite offers 5 free premium licenses. That's part of the Tech Marketplace offering. You can start your safety journey, start digitizing your safety process for very little entry cost, if any. Of the tech report, the safety technologies that ABC members are using the most tends to be job site monitoring. The next one is safety information management system, and then safety documentation apps. All of that data feeds into making safe safety choices. Dennis, I'll hand it back to you for the future of construction technology.
Joseph, appreciate it. Couple of comments on some of the things that Joseph was highlighting. Number one, he talked about purpose-built software, and earlier I made a comment was role-based, persona-based software. That's a perfect example. We're seeing safety solutions now targeted at the team that's responsible for safety within the organizations. We're seeing software for the superintendent, like I mentioned earlier. We're seeing software targeted at the technicians if we're doing field service work. And we're also seeing software targeted very tightly at markets. One of my favorite examples, and it was like when I heard about this, it was like, wow. And the reason I bring this up because many of the people on the call might be specialty contractors that have some very specific type thing. There might be systems out there. The one that I wanted to highlight, it's actually a system called Field Flow. And I ran into them a couple years ago, and it's kind of like a Procore equivalent. It's operational software focused at demolition and asbestos removal. That's what it's focused at. That's what it does. And it's a very specific niche, but there's things that you're not going to find in a Procore or other types of project management systems like that. So I think if you look out there, the innovation that's occurring is going to make that happen. The second thing that I noticed, he was talking about your plan to adopt technology and so on. I was at an ABC chapter event about 4 weeks ago in Pennsylvania, and I had the opportunity to be on a panel with 2 contractors and 1 other technology provider. And it was all about the selection process of software. How do you pick what products to look at? How do you implement it, and so on. And there was really a couple things that came out of there. Number one, it aligned real closely with some of the points Josef made. Is number one, you have to have a champion, and on any given initiative, and it might not be the same person on every initiative, someone really to champion that initiative from the planning and selection process all the way through implementation. Number two, you have to have a technology strategy of some sort. You just can't react to people say, well, I need this, I need that, I need this. You really got to think about it, put together that technology strategy. And then third is you have to run the implementation like a project, just like you're building a building. You have to have a plan, you have to have tasks, you have to have milestones. You've got to make sure you incorporate, Josef mentioned, the different roles that you're rolling the product out to. So training is really critical. And then the last comment was, again, his purpose-built software. There are products that are built to integrate with a Procore, for example, or a Red Team, for example. And from the ERP perspective, Excel is not built to integrate it. Even if you keep schedules in Excel, Excel is not really built to integrate there. But if I look at Sage and I look at our 3 ERP solutions that we offer, all 3 of those integrate with Procore, because it is a major thing. And if someone's got to rekey data, there's opportunity for mistakes and there's opportunity for lack of productivity. So with that, this slide, as I look at it, how does the cloud help us in areas like these, and what are we doing to kind of help get these things in place? Workers not in the office. Well, as we know with COVID, that's a huge thing that has happened, and many companies are not getting all the people back into the office. Jobs are remote. It's always been that way, and that's always been a challenge. A big thing that's happening with all the tools and technology out there, we are getting more data points, though. There are more data points. So the need to get those analyzed and get those into a place where they can be consumed becomes more critical. Need for real-time data access. A project manager or a superintendent on a job needing to check the insurance certs of the subcontractors are out there literally, once a week to make sure that they've got insurance. That's a simple example of real-time data access. As we see these point solutions and different companies, we've got to continue with an effort for improved integration. Cybersecurity. Many of you might have servers sitting in your back office, with some degree of firewall on it. I'm pretty comfortable in saying there are millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent by cloud, true native cloud providers of software that is magnitudes larger than anything that any individual company could spend. And in order to keep innovation going, we do, from a technology perspective, we want to get it innovated and get it out into the field as fast as possible. So these are all areas that having a true cloud environment help. If you got workers at home and all they got to do is open up their laptop and connect to the internet, and they're talking just as if they're at their desk in the office, is a major gain. Or if they're at the job site and they need that same level of connectivity, they need access to stuff in the back office, or up, the stuff that is kept available, they need that access. Pushing data into a central spot is much more conducive with the cloud. So the cloud definitely helps us there. I always hit on data access. If I can dial into my PM system and see what the insurance certs are, or dial in or pull up a page in my browser and see that the insurance certs for my project and my subs are up to date, that's an easy, quick access to real-time data, which is critical. I've kind of hit on improved integration, how important that is, but the key here is the cloud has made that easier. if I've got software sitting, behind all of my customers, for example, firewalls on their servers, it's a lot easier to reach it if it's up in the cloud in a central spot. So we believe that the cloud truly improves the opportunity for integration. I kind of hit on cybersecurity in that dollars being spent by huge AWS, Amazon, etc., on cybersecurity compared to what you spend on your own local on-premise solutions is magnitudes larger, and they've got people that's all they do is spend time there. So bottom line on all this is the cloud can definitely help improve the adoption of technology for many of the reasons outlined here. So with that, go next through the next one. We don't have to sit on those. Okay. So I'm going to kind of switch gears now and talk a little bit about the Sage construction cloud offering, which is called Sage Intacct Construction. This is a piece of software that was built from the ground up in the cloud, and it was never an on-premise solution. It was built for the cloud, and it covers a variety of different types of companies. You'll see there GC builders, developers, pretty much the gamut of contractors that Sage has traditionally worked with. All basically, this product is built for them all. And you might be saying, well, doesn't sound like the specialization. And there's some truth in that, but if you look at an accounting system or a finance system, 90% of it is about the same. I don't care what type contractor you are. What differs is a lot of times is the operational software. And so we built this product with an ability to integrate with the operational software at a level that we've never been able to accomplish in the past. And that's the part that allows us to kind of get into some of these industries. You take the residential builder, we've got 2 partnerships targeted at a production builder, who has 200 plus housing starts a year. The way that they mobilize and set up is drastically different. So let's take a little bit of peek at some of the things, again, from a native cloud solution that I've talked about. Number one is visibility. And so this screenshot here is just a simple example of, of a project overview, where if I'm a project manager and maybe I've got 3 jobs out of the city and I'm on the road, or I want to look at my numbers at home, I've got quick access to them. Just pull up the browser, go to a dashboard, and I can see the types of numbers here. And as you look at a typical project, we of course have to store all the different types of numbers with supporting schedules underneath. So I need a schedule for the total cost, which is typically the cost code breakdown, etc. So visibility and insight, I believe the cloud solutions definitely help in that aspect. Any construction system, you have to be able to get at the types of numbers that you need when you need them. If I'm out on a job site and I don't have I don't have it in this particular picture, but let's say it was a GC and there's a line on here for Division 16 electrical, and I'm able to see what my budget is for electrical. I'm able to see what the subcontractors I've let, the dollar amount that I've let, and how much I've already been invoiced for them. So I'm sitting there with my electrical contractor on a project, being able to have access to that information quickly is something that I feel is extremely, extremely valuable. And if I'm a PM and I know I had an estimate of, let's say it was $100,000 for my estimate, but I've only bought out 80,000, my buyout was 80,000. Knowing that when I'm talking with this electrical, because he's talking about a potential improvement, a value-added engineering type improvement, and I know I've got a little bit of room where I could talk to him about that. So with that, access to the many types of numbers is critical. Another component, of course, is being able to take care of the revenue side, and you always have to be able to identify, quickly and easy, what does the revenue side of the job look like? What's my contract work? How much have I billed? How much have I changed? Had change orders against it. And really, that's kind of what this screen illustrates here, is the ability, if I'm a project manager, I'm going to sit down with an owner, and we're going to kind of look at some numbers. I might want to have quick access to him. And if I want to do that when I'm, stop by his office to kind of finalize the billing, I might want to do that same thing. So I've got my schedule of values with my line items and all that kind of stuff, and I'm working up a billing. And I want to stop by and have that discussion with him. I'm going to go ahead a couple of screens here. I keep telling you in advance. So this is an example of the contract and the ability to pull it up and see while I'm there with the owner exactly kind of what's going on. Next screen. This is looking at it from a little bit more granular position, the line items that I have, how much I build against the line items. And again, when I sit down with an owner, that is good interactive words and discussions that are worth having. Next. And of course, we know we've got to deal with change. And again, I'm kind of portraying here, if I'm a subcontractor, I'm sitting down with a GC, or I'm a GC sitting down with the owner, knowing what's sitting out there from a change request perspective is always helpful. Be able to pull it up, see it quickly, and be able to have a discussion about, hey, you talked about, you kind of gave us the approval on that change request, but we've started the work on it, and I know we don't typically do that, but I've started the work on it. When can we roll that into a change order? If you look at the next screen, that's the cycle of taking the detailed change requests, and as you notice, you might see down in the bottom, I've got a cost for that change order, and I've got the price for the change order. And I could take this change request, go one more screen, and then roll it into the actual change order. And right there, while I'm talking with him, if he says, yeah, let's go, let's get that thing done, I could actually do it right there while I'm sitting with him on the screen, just to kind of help us move that cash flow along, because until I go through this step, I can't bill for it. So that's real critical, and being able to really substantiate with the owner, that billing cycle, that whole back and forth during a progress bill situation, I think is invaluable visibility into the numbers. Next screen. And again, this screen here just kind of shows that final billing where I'm ready now to, we've agreed on these numbers, and he knows that he knows what's happening. So you're improving that relationship with your project partners, and you can do it by reviewing the job, both tactically, schedule, materials, progress, but also financially. And that's kind of what I'm illustrating here, is to have those conversations. And, next screen, right on the right there in front of him, you could show him, okay, here's the pay app you're getting. It's coming, I'm gonna send it out as soon as they get back in the office, but you can lay it out to him and actually share that with him right then and there. So with that, one more screen, you can see the detail here associated with it. And those are all, again, ways to improve the productivity on the job. And this type of thing is happening both electronically. You're seeing software out there, again, more specialized. The pull pay app, we've all known Textura has been out there for years with pay app processing software. Over the last 2 years, I've seen just growth in the number of companies that offer different types of solution, and I'll call it the procurement supply chain. And that's the procurement supply chain could be a subcontractor GC relationship, or it could be even a material to subcontractor relationship. I looked at 3 systems this year where they really talked about field requisition order and all that, and truly having all that data not move through an analog system, but move through a digital system, which is where we're at now. So with that, that's kind of some of the points I wanted to make today. I'm going to turn it over to our 2 other guests. Mauricio and Parada and Anthony. Anthony, guys, I'd like to first thank you for being a Sage customer for 22 years. You are using our Sage 300 CRE Timberline product to basically run your company, run the finance of your company. And I appreciate that loyalty. But I know recently in the last 12 months, you've made a move to the cloud. You've taken your finances to the cloud. Maybe chat with us about that a little bit, about that transition, why you did it now, etc. Mauricio, Anthony.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. It's a wonderful presentation. I think I can take a little bit of what he said early on about the evolution of technology, and Joseph just kind of just marrying what needs to be done in order to, or things to consider when a transition to going to from a on-prem to a cloud base. And I think so. One of the key things for us, and of Dennis, you were just mentioning this, and for me, I've been with Hoffman. I've been familiar with the Yardis of the world, the MRIs, and when I came to Hoffman, we were on Sage 300. And to understand from an accounting standpoint, you're always understaffed. You're always understaffed. That's one of the biggest thing on the accounting world. You're always understaffed, and people always asking for things. So you're always playing catch up. You're never the driver of any process, so you always play catch up. So one of the things that I consider when we say why make this smooth, right? So if it's not broken, why fix it? I'm driving my perfectly 1980 car, or runs on diesel, takes me from point A to point B. I'm at the street lights, and then I'm next to a Tesla, and then the Tesla just starts and then left me in the dust. And I'm like, and then the Tesla has sensors, oh wait, so it can't get in an accident. So then you take that back and now use it back with the on-prem. You take it back to use it to the cloud. So for us, one thing became evident was visibility. I know Dennis touched on that. Reliability. And the third thing, it has to be Mr. and Mrs. COVID. I can't thank them enough. At least on this topic, or just kind of getting to that evolution. For us was visibility. Visibility was a big factor. Management always wants to see reports today, and they don't have time. They have in 5 minutes, you need to send the report. DMs want to see the reports today, and everyone wants to see a report today. So one of the things, and I'm glad Dennis showed the dashboard. That's one of the things that I really liked. I think all of us, when we manage multiple projects, we want to see how we're doing, how we're trending, how's cost, and just see like the picture in one spot. And that's one of the things that I really liked. The other thing, when you're on-prem, there's always the archive issue. You're always archiving. So you're always a little bit behind. If you want to grab data from 7 years ago, you're gonna have to go to different databases to bring the data back into one spot and then run analytics. So that is time consuming. It's a waste of time. So then the other things, streamline reporting. That was another thing that we really like to write. One is streamline reporting. I want to be able to, for my DMs, run multiple projects. I know the DMs always ask me for a report. I said, on Mondays, you're going to get your report every Mondays. I don't have to do anything. I just need to make sure that my records are accurate, and then the report goes out on a Monday. That's one thing that I really liked. The other thing that it was important for us was reliability. Being on-prem, this may not apply to many of you, but we use a third-party provider that allow us to access our accounting system from anywhere. However, it was through you can say a portal. It was like almost getting into a cave, doing some retrieving data from that cave, and then bringing that data out into your server, and then playing around with the data, and then now distributing. I think it's really antiquated, right? It was just a waste of time. The product itself is great, but then that having accessibility to the product was really another factor for us. So that was another factor. And Dennis touched on another topic too, security. I think security was another big factor for us because it was a third-party provider. We didn't control the servers. We didn't control how protected the servers were. And in updates, constant updates. That was another thing. For us, my major decision came in January of 2020 when we had to do some updates, and the third-party provider asked me to get in line with everybody else. And then if I want to cut the line, I needed to pay a fee. And then, you know what? I don't want to be handcuffed. I want to be able to make decisions on the spot. I don't want to be able to hold my business to an hour, 2 hours a day or two because there's downtime. I have to wait. That was a major decision for us in just the constant update. And then the final was really COVID. I think COVID was our biggest advocate in real estate. Everyone may know this. In real estate is probably one of the industry that likes change the least. Technology is not as receptive in real estate. Everyone are used to their process. You know, they love the paper. They live with paper. One of the things that I've done since I joined Hoffman is going paperless. You know, like now I clean the office, make it pretty, remove filing cabinets. It's now going to a paperless system. So but in COVID, that's what COVID did for us, because our senior management always like to see people here in the office, like signing checks. They always like to sign checks, right? So like, why are we signing checks still in this day and age? Why are we signing them? So then COVID came around. Guess what? Nobody was in the office. But then what happened? Senior management give the green light, and that's where we are now. And it was a fantastic decision for us to make that transition from the on-prem to the cloud. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I think as Dennis and Joseph have mentioned, it's a big project. It's a big project, but I can tell you that at the end of the day, you're going to be in a better place and equipped to compete with your competitors.
Great point.
And I'll pass it on to Tony. Tony was a big part of my team. He was leading the implementation, data validation, and Tony can comment on some of the things that some of the good things and some of the challenges. I think if many of you would like to make a transition from on-prem to a cloud-based system. Thank you.
Go ahead, Anthony. Oh, you're muted. Number one saying of modern time.
There we go.
There we go.
So I won't go into too much detail, but overall, I guess I can kind of talk about the experience through implementation and all the data we had to bring in between 40 entities, bringing that all from 300 to a cloud. It was a big haul, and overall, you know, we actually had Office Connector in Sage 300, which actually helped because Sage 300 only gives you 2 years of data, and then you have to archive it. So we had the connector, which was able to bring all the data, was able to upload that. You know, took quite a while. We worked very hard with our consultant Sockeye to get us all the data into Intacct, and then started validation, which is pretty difficult, but Intacct does a very good job of giving you templates to upload everything. And so that really helped getting examples of, you know, which fields you should bring in, which ones you should not. And we went with the method of bring as much as we can in every line. So then, for example, job costs. So then when we went into creating job cost reports, we were able to pick the data that we wanted in the report that was useful for everyone. And that is one thing I would suggest, going through those extra steps of just bringing as much data as possible, because then you can manipulate what you want to see, and it helps the DM see their historical, because it's probably going to happen when you're in the middle of a project, and going back to try to pull something from your old systems a little difficult. But overall, going into Intacct was night and day, because you were able to upload different, I guess, in different modules. You were able to do, you know, fixed assets, set up your fixed assets all in one place and be able to run your reports from there, going into construction reporting, writing reports using that data, getting your consultant, or if you're able to write reports, is perfect. You know, coming in and being able to build out retainage, cleaning up your chart of accounts, getting all that pretty much streamlined so you never have issues in the future with reporting or any issues with data. But the big haul was data validation and making sure that everything ticked and tied to our previous platform.
Great.
Tony, so just I one last thing is I think the design and configuration for many of you that want to make that change, I think that's, quite frankly, that's going to be where you're going to spend most of your time, and that's it's critical. It's critical, and you can't think about just what I have today. You have to think of what do you think the company is going to be in the future. Am I setting up the company with all the dimensions and or leaving dimensions so I can use in the future, so I can do data analytics? Because the one thing that I would say about Sage is the marketplace is phenomenal. The marketplace is, I mean, it's a, you want to, there's a list of vendors already validated. We found our AP approval software through the marketplace. We had one vendor that was going to work with us. However, it was not able to fully connect the way our business is run. So then the marketplace was just fantastic for us. No need to hire a third-party consultant to do some of those work. You can just go into the marketplace and find the solution that can work well with Sage Intacct.
Yeah, and that really supports, you know, some of the comments I made earlier about interoperability. That's got to be the future. That's one of the biggest areas of improvement and one of the most critical parts of software architecture today. And the Intacct marketplace is where ISV, independent software vendors, can go out and build and use the tools that we have built into the true cloud solutions to basically connect the software seamlessly. And it is through those tools that allow you to find those, like Mauricio said, one particular AP solution didn't quite do it the way they needed it, but they found a different AP management solution. So that level of integration is really, really critical. Another real quick comment about migrations, and I think this is something, again, if you're going through an implementation or when you're getting ready for it, number one, now is the time to truly look at the data and look at your processes and consider changes. You know, just don't do it the way you always did it, because then there might not be the time to do it. So take your time in that design and plan stage. It's critical. And then number two, when you do that, something that we've been doing in more migrations lately is that you really need to first think about the data that you need, in essence, to go live. So if you're a construction company, all active projects, you know, all the data about that active project, you got to bring over, you got to get brought over. But let's say a job has been closed for 5 years. I agree with Anthony's comment that the more data you can get, the better, but you could get that after migration, and you can go back and move some of that data later if you plan for it. And again, that's just part of that planning, and that reduces a little bit of your risk during a migration. But all great points. I love your reliability and upkeep. I did forget to mention that. And that was probably one of my biggest learnings, is that when you develop and you build on-premise software, you do it a certain way. You roll out releases. And one thing from a supportability, from a vendor perspective, you never know what version people are running because they don't have to install it. So you might be supporting 8 different versions of software. Where in a true native cloud solution, like with Intacct, the second, I think Friday of the middle of the month of a quarter, there is software rolled out. You're going to wake up on Saturday morning, there's going to be a new version of software, and it's like clockwork. And we've mastered how to do that. So worrying about getting those updates, worrying about scheduling. So it just happens in a true native cloud solution. So some really great comments by you guys. Really appreciate those comments. Joseph, back to you.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we'll move to the Q&A session of the presentation. I see a few here. One for Dennis. What's the difference between cloud hosted and native cloud?
Yeah, the way I look at it is native cloud is built for the cloud, and it is built where the whole platform and architecture is built around APIs. Number one, for better interoperability. Number two, just the way you run your projects, the way you maintain the product, the way you roll out updates it's like clockwork, and you basically do it on a very scheduled basis, and everyone gets it all at one time. Whereas on a hosted solution, if really all you do is take your on-premise software and put it into the cloud, that's no different than having it to some degree sitting in your server at home. You're just putting it into someone else's server. Software still has to be updated. It still has to have things applied to it. And if there's, if you're a vendor that has 500 of those, well, it's got to happen 500 times. Whereas in true native cloud multi-tenant software, you do it once and it's done for everyone. And so that's one of the biggest differences, is that reliability, updatability. One of the things you do address with a hybrid or a hosted solution is the technology has improved where you can get at it with the internet from wherever you're at. That is a plus. There's no doubt about that. And if that's one of your quick problems, that's a great what I call journey to the cloud. Is make that step. If you're not ready to kind of re-implement a whole new ERP, move it to a hosted environment, and then eventually you get that remote access capabilities addressed, and then eventually you can then move it to a true native cloud solution.
All right. And then this one seems to be for the whole group here. Can Sage Intacct Construction integrate with non-cloud-based solutions?
The answer to that is yes. What we are seeing out there is most of the newer solutions are being built in a way where they're already native cloud. But if they're, where I see that a little bit, Joseph, sometimes is, let's say that a company has made an investment in some very specialized operational software, and it's running on their on-premise servers. So with that said, part of the solution of most native cloud solution is they allow you, and sometimes there's a charge to use the same API. So technically, you write a connector that connects your on-premise software to the cloud APIs. And so yes, it can be done. You're not seeing that happen too much with what I'd call market software, because they kind of know it's going to go away, and most companies aren't investing in that. But if you've got a piece of software that you love and you're not planning on going away from, but it is on premise, yes, you can still connect those.
Okay. And then we have one more question here. What are some of the construction technology products that integrate with Sage Intacct?
What I would suggest you do is go out there and just do a Google of Intacct Marketplace. Use those two words and you'll find it. We've got a number of time-based systems that have integrated. You take something like HH2 has written some integrations. There are 3 different AP routing systems. TimberScan is out there. HH2 has an AP routing system. There's a third one. I can't think of the name. GC Pay is out there. Procore is out there, Red Team's out there, Hyphen's out there, BuildOps is out there, quite a few. And I've had 4 conversations this week with different ISVs about putting together their integration. So the list of companies that are out there which are construction specific, there's a bunch of them and they're improving. But back to Mauricio's comment, if there's something more from a finance side that you want to integrate with just straight the finance side of it, there's a variety of tools that are already basically, really, they're not what I'd call construction specific, they're just finance specific. And there's all sorts of them out there as well. So Google Intacct Marketplace and you'll be able to see a bunch of them.
All right, wonderful. Well, we are out of time for today. On behalf of ABC, I would like to thank again our panelists and also our Tech Alliance partners. This webinar will be archived on ABC's website, abca.org, and attendees will receive an email within 24 hours with a link to the webinar recording and presentation. Today's webinar is copyrighted 2022 by Associated Builders and Contractors with all rights reserved. Thank you again. You may now disconnect.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.